So thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us today on the December webinar titled Product Updates and Celebrating Success. So together with me, we have Jamie Penn.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Some of you I've spoken with before. I cover growth here at Hortis.
Yeah, so I'm Howard Osgaard, and I'm the Director of Botanical Solutions. So as always, if you have any questions during the session here, please use any kind of method that you would prefer. We'll keep an eye out on the chat. You can also raise your hand. And yes, you can even unmute yourself if you like. We're not a large crowd today, so that's more than whatever you're comfortable with. So just to let you know as well, we've now started to listen to feedback. We've now decided to have a sort of regular cadence on these webinars. So there'll be a similar webinar every 2 months. So in February, same day of the week, same time. And look out for that. We will announce the titles on the webinar closer to the date. And we try to round off around 1:45 the hour. But keep the questions coming. And before we start talking about the agenda, I thought I will also start with a quote from Kevin Bewley at Auckland Zoo. And some of you may have noticed that we've added to our tagline. Before it said plant records, efficient, accurate, always available. But we've felt the sort of appropriate to add enjoyable, because we're actually getting more and more feedback how people actually have changed their, what shall I say, outlook on the chore that was considered maybe by many historically as a chore. And from Auckland Zoo, they said the team are having great fun with Hortis. And I think that's a great, what shall I say, testament to the work that our designers and engineers have worked on to make the story of keeping your records up to date more than just a labor of, what shall I say, resistance. Removing friction is sort of our mantra here, and hopefully that will come through a bit today as well on the demos at the end of this presentation. So today, we're going to talk a bit, we're not sure, sometimes people may have not heard too much about Hortis and Species 360, so we're going to talk a bit about that, and then we're going to dive through a selection of success stories. We thought it was appropriate now at the end of the year. We've got quite a few success stories coming in through 2024, and we tried to pick a selection of those that sort of paint a picture of the diversity of the community, and maybe you could see yourself as one of those sort of having a similar, what shall I say, background or story to tell. And then at the end, we're going to talk a bit about the latest features, but also have a quick flashback of what we consider maybe the most important features we released in 24. And then there will be some time for Q&A. So, but as I say, if you have questions during the session as well, we will are open for that as always. First, just to share our background. So I think this is our last opportunity to share this slide for you. Next year, we need to make a new one, which is 51 year of data saving species. So many of you know that Species 360 was originally founded a non-profit based in the US to serve the community of zoos and aquariums. And we joined Hortis 9 days from now. It's exactly 2 years when Hortis joined Species 360 to expand the mission to also look for or look after plant records or looking after the plant conservation driven mission, etc. So there's a long history in terms of record keeping with the colleagues that we joined, and we're really proud of that. Yes, you can see here is the team who met up last year, and no, that was actually earlier this year. And the other part I would like to sort of highlight, even though some of you may know that really well, that we've sort of, when we started Hortis, we're trying to sort of explore those fundamental challenges that botanic gardens struggle with and that may not have been dealt with other systems. And And one of the most fundamental things that we've got feedback on is the fact that most people struggle with having sufficient time to actually do record keeping. And so number one for us is to remove as much friction as possible so that you can actually get your work done, basically. And hopefully some of the things we're going to talk about at the end today will give you some kind of sense of what that means. The second thing that we've sort of picked up is that a lot of people find scientific names really difficult. And one of those things we then done is to integrate with the Plants of the World Online, so you have all the wild occurring species available to you. So spell checking or misspelling a scientific name is now almost impossible. So that helps a lot for people to sort of remove that burden. And we'll talk a bit more about that because there's more than just the names. The third thing is that we know that botanic gardens and zoos and other collection holders also have an educational mission. I've yet to meet an institution who doesn't have that. And when you make all this effort of recording your plants and then being able to not being able to share that knowledge, it's almost a travesty. So that's something we launched in 24. We're going to talk a bit more about that as well. But that's like covering the sort of three really fundamental needs, you might say, that we've identified that people have feedback to us. And the last thing is being able to basically not having to worry about what kind of machine do I now need to go to the office. Hortis is actually available on anything you might have, not on your watch, but that might come, I'm not sure, but at least on your smartphone, whatever you have, you can just get started. So this, I don't know if you remember, well, I don't want to remind people about COVID, but at least when that was going on, there was a lot of palaver of getting access to the software that you needed. So we've sort of, ready for that, you might say. So success stories. So we picked 5 success stories. There's more success stories to be explored on our website, but we're trying to cover the 5 different topics, you might say. We would love. Here's another one, 6, which is from the UK, which is a story about a garden who went through the BGCI accreditation, which is very sort of great milestone to get that accreditation. So part of that story was to adopt Hortis and get your plant records up to street. So that's one story I also recommend you read amongst the others. We're going to travel down to Australia to hear about one garden there at the university. And then we're going to go up to the Netherlands, not too far from where I'm sitting. And then we're going to jump over to the US and talk to 3 others. The other markers, the yellow ones, are other stories we can't tell away. We're not going to have time to talk to about, but I encourage you to go to our blog and read more about these other stories as well. So the first one is quite an early story. They started Hortis in 23, but what I love about this story is the way they've sort of tell that narrative of not really having that institutional understanding of what kind of a plant collection they had, and they also there was one narrative of them seeing the dashboard and suddenly realized how many wild collected species they had. All those kind of things that come to life when you actually get the data in front of you. They also have, I think, over 60 endangered species in their collection. And now they're more and more able to also collaborate cross-departmental departments at the university. And of course, it's an educational institution as well. So students, etc., have access to this. So it's a really, really great story and really fun to be part of their success with the work that we've done for them or that we've done together. So a really nice story. I would encourage you to read that. Another story, which is sort of conservation from a different perspective, you might say, and that's the castle Muiderslot near Amsterdam, who has a wonderful historic garden where they portray the cultivation of plants, how it was done in the 17th century. And one thing they've done that's really nice now is that they've also worked on a visitation using the public sites, so they can tell the story. Not only historically, these kind of places would be focused on the indoor collections, artifacts, and other things from the 17th century, but now the living collection is now brought to life through the accessibility of Hortis on the mobile platform. So that's really great story. So I love that kind of being able to merge two different, what shall I say, collections, if you like, in their storytelling. The third one, which is in Bronx, is a garden that opened to the public. Not 100% sure, but what they did have is lots of plant records, but then in drawers and on spreadsheets and paper. So they've done a sort of Herculean effort to collate all that data, and there's a lot of change there. You can read the article about staff's engagement in the whole prospect of not the records, but the plants themselves. So the plants themselves come through the records, obviously. So yet again, another kind of how people change their outlook on the role of the plants, probably as well. Now, the penultimate story, and I have the feeling we also might have Susie from Indianapolis here. I'm going to say a few words, but maybe you could chip in, Susie, as well. That they joined earlier this year with a significant collection of over 40,000 plants, and some wonderful stories about there's the cycad, the extinct cycad from Hawaii that's in their collection, etc. So I'm not sure if you're there, Susie, and if you want to add any context, if you can. Oh yes, hello, Susie.
Okay,
thank you.
Hello, sorry.
That's okay, no worries.
So yeah, like you said, we have over 40,000 plants, that we've had in a database that was built in-house, that was very cumbersome to navigate. Just simple creating new accessions was time consuming. So our upgrade to Hortis has been a game changer for us as far as our record keeping goes.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, no, I just saw, so there's quite a lot to look after. Obviously, but just how many? Just out of curiosity, because for many people who are not familiar with zoos that have such a significant plant collection, and it's very impressive. So is that sort of how you see? This might sound as a leading question, but I was thinking about, some people say we're a botanic garden with animals. Is that how you feel?
Yes, internally, yes, our horticulture department very much feels that we are a botanical garden. We are accredited through the American Alliance of Museums as a botanical garden, but our guests and the public don't recognize that. So, joining Hortis and this platform is just like one of the first steps that we're taking to, raise the awareness of our collection and, some of the endangered species that we have here, and just the conservation initiatives that we participate in.
Yeah. No, I read a bit about the conservation projects you're involved in, and that's very impressive. So,
yeah, very exciting.
Really, yeah, well, ditto, very good. So we called it biodiversity conservation because of, obviously, you got flora and fauna in your collections. So,
Yes.
So yeah. Thank you so much, Susie. That's
Thank
great.
you.
The last sort of success story we want to mention at the end here is in Arizona. The reason we picked this one is the first one we sort of captured, but it's also the one that stands out with the use of volunteers. So they started from scratch with no records whatsoever, and they got I think up to 40 volunteers involved. And I feel when people ask, is it difficult to adopt and learn Hortis? I'm not trying to sort of say that volunteers are, what shall I say? No, I'm not going to say anything. What I'm trying to say is that these 40 volunteers were up and running in no time. People with a very diverse background. We have an introductory video last 3 minutes, and they were able to contribute. So I think that's a testament to all the effort we put in to remove friction and make Hortis more of a guide than, what shall I say, something that makes you angry. So that was a really great achievement by them, and we're really proud to be able to help them.
Just to add to that, there's quite a few gardens that we work with who rely quite heavily on volunteers. And what's quite good about Hortis is there is the flexibility with your users, that if, you know, one volunteer is perhaps in one day, then you can switch things around so as that, you know, depending on who's in that day with your volunteers, you don't need to have them as kind of set users. There is the flexibility.
Yeah, thank you, James. Yeah, that's very true. Okay, so now we're gone through the journey of some of those success stories. I encourage you to have a look at the others. There's a few in the UK and more to come. So if you're a Hortis user and want to share your story, we'd love to hear from you. Ping us directly or through support@hortis.com, and then we'll get that started. So thank you very much. Now we're going to dive into product highlights. So we thought we went through our sort of release notes. For those of you who use Hortis, you may have discovered on our website the release notes where we publish updates that we roll out. And what's beautiful with Hortis, as also you may not have noticed, is that the updates come friction-free. You don't have to call IT departments. You just get the new update and then you can get started using it. So the first thing we released earlier this year, which I think is probably one of the more significant ones, is shared taxonomy with additional metadata. And I'm going to quickly, looking at the time, we have a bit of time for this, so I'm going to just show you an example what I mean by this, if you bear with me. So I'm now here in one collection. Some of you may have not seen Hortis, I'm not sure, but this will not be a time for that to go an introduction, but you have here the dashboard, the map, and the lists. So here I'm looking at the material, accession, and taxa, so it's quite straightforward. And then the taxonomic data that is really helpful is I'm just going to see if I have any. I'm going to go to the accession so I can see if I get any data on provenance here. I will go to the taxa. I'm just hoping to get some threatened species, but I'm just going to go back to anyone. It doesn't matter. We'll just go to the Quercus robur here, and then you see here that when you now look at the screen here, you get the taxonomy, the family, ICN red listing, native distribution, all this for free, provided by Plants World Online. You can also navigate to the actual species to get more details, which you see here. So this is one of those things we introduced in earlier this spring. And the point being here is that this is factual information, and traditionally this is something that every botanic garden had to replicate manually. And now you don't have to do that. And you will see later on that this is also something that is brought to you if you want to share with visitors, so you don't have to spend time on that. And you can here also get details about the actual reference where this data was provided from, which is in this case Plants of the World Online. There's been some questions about us being able to extend this to cultivars, and we would love to do that in the future. There's just a bit more of many different opinions about cultivars, and reliable database is a bit hard to collaborate with, but hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. So if I click on this link, I can then get more data from Plants World Online about its distribution and so forth. So all this is then handed over to you when you use Hortis. So that's quite nice. The other thing we did, which was more subtle, but I think more very because Hortis is growing with capabilities, and it can be a bit confusing if you don't curate that kind of transition with care. So I'm just going to go back to the Hortis a bit to show you what we did. Just a few things, like I showed you here. I can navigate here to go through all the accessions, and if I'm at the accessions, so let's go to plant here, for example. I will see more related data as I look at this particular plant, for example. So there's much more ease of navigation to figure out related information about the plants. Like here, where I can jump to the photos. There's none of that on this one, but so that's the kind of thing we did that I think benefited quite a number of people in terms of usability. and some, we are very, very cautious about this, just to let you know that we don't just keep on coming with new ideas to think and see if it works. So it's a lot of thought gone into trying to improve everything around your record keeping processes. Then we launched batched updates, and that is a power tool. We know that there's a broad range of users. Some people are maybe what should we say, less tech savvy or more nervous, or don't only use Hortis very occasionally, but some want to do more powerful sort of operations on the program, and I'm going to show you what I mean about that. If I go back here now to the lists that we saw earlier on, and you may have seen that this checkbox, when I start making updates or doing checkbox and select checkboxes, I can actually do operations on all these, there's in this case, these 3 plants. I can move them to a different bed. I can change tags. I can change status and so forth. And this is really powerful. I can download them as a list. So that makes you sort of, it makes it possible for you to actually do quite a lot of sort of bulk updates without having to call an IT department or go to a 3-week SQL course or whatever you might have to do in other systems. So we've had a great lot of feedback from this. And I also would like to highlight this one, move to trash. That's something we, Hortis is, I think, quite unique here as well in this field, where we your data is never removed, deleted. It's actually just moved to the recycle bin, and you can take them out again. So that's to give you confidence and make you feel fuzzy and safe, instead of feeling scared and nervous about what might happen if you click the wrong button. So move to trash is, we discussed if we should call it move to compost, but it was voted out. So these are the kind of power tools that we have. We have this slogan, sort of light yet powerful. So trying to give you those powerful features, but maybe not that it will clutter up your experience when you use the product. Okay, so going back to the list here, public sites. So that was something we launched in the summer, and we've had a quite good uptake from that, a very great feedback. I'm going to go and show you one example. What you can do, if you go to, you could do this yourself. If you go to our blog here, hortis.com, and you visit our, you see here, well, I can show, I actually have the site open here already, so I'll do that for the sake of. This is this wonderful Muiderslot in Amsterdam, near Amsterdam, where you can see visitors can then experience the garden, go down. If they click here, they will basically see where they are in the garden, and then they can click on, for example, this time, and if they have taken photos, that will come up, and then you get, if they haven't written anything, then we bring data from Wikipedia for the visitor. And the same goes for information about distribution, climate, everything else. That's, so you can actually have a sort of an interesting experience without actually doing more than recording the species name and where it is in the garden. And that's all the effort you need to do. And that I think is quite enjoyable. There's also a browse experience where you can go through the list here. I want to also show you that being mobile first, whatever we do, try to make sure that it works really smoothly on your smartphone as well. And this certainly does that really well. So that's typically where the visitor will come as well. They might see something like this and on their phone, and then can click on the marker and then look up and so forth. So this has been really, really well received. What we say to gardens is put a QR code in the entrance, and then people understand straight away that they can try out and learn more about their collection. Excuse me.
Also, just to add to that, if you have perhaps seasonal highlights in your garden, you can use the bulk feature, bulk updates that Havard just mentioned, to be able to change things quite easily from spring, summer, autumn, winter, which is quite nice. And we're also putting together a list of all the gardens that have utilised public sites, and done a good job of that. So if you do have a public site at the minute, or it's something that you're putting together, then you'll be able to see what other people have done, which is just quite nice to be able to share knowledge.
Yep, that's a very good point, Jamie. Thank you. And you can also see here when the bulk update, where you then can make them public or private. So you are full control over which plants are made available to the public. So yeah, one step further forward.
Angela's also asked, is there a garden that has published the public site link on their website? I'm not aware of any. You maybe have, but it is certainly something that you can do, is have that on your website.
Yeah, no, we're not sure about, but we'll, as we get more and more gardens on the public site, we'll try to highlight them on hortis.com as well. That will be something that will trickle out next year, I think, as the uptake will sort of get higher. The penultimate thing we're going to talk about is the introduction of what we call Botanical GIS, and that is something we released a month or two ago, which if I go to our mapping tool, so for many gardens, the prospect of having a map is very desirable, but having a really great map can be quite a daunting, tricky task. You will typically, if you see, for example, here with the satellite map provided by Bing, this is Amsterdam. You see the refinement here is not that great. Now, if you want to have a really refined and nice map, you might then need to delve into the use of GIS tools, professional GIS tools, which are typically they're great, but they're also very advanced and takes quite a lot of training to be proficient with. So what we did here is to introduce the ability to draw your own beds. What that helps you is that when I click on one of these bed codes, I not only see where it is, but also get the list of all the plants in that bed. And even if those plants might not be mapped directly with specific coordinates, and you can see here now, if I take the historic garden, these are just samples, so it they don't take too much notice into the actual look of this map. But here I can then actually make changes to the different beds as well. So we have a number of gardens who really successfully managed to create beds for their whole garden. There's some ways to import your own existing bed layers as well, but I'll send a support question if you want to learn more about that. So that really changes the whole dynamic for gardens with fewer resources who don't want to invest in getting GIS experts in or buy a lot of complicated tools, where you can actually do it directly in Hortis. So that's really been very well received by the community.
Question from Mark, is the bed code the same as the location?
Yes, yep, that's correct, yeah. We did a webinar. So the way you work on the bed codes is actually if I go back here you can see here now, if I scroll out a bit more, that you can either look at the plants, and then you can look at the locations. And here you see all your bed locations, and you can see all the bed locations that haven't been mapped yet. So if I want to map my glass houses, let's say they are down here, I would just click on that, and then I would say add, and then I can start adding my glass house here. So that's how easy you do it. So, and then you can have one bed can be multiple, so I can add another polygon and keep on going. So yeah, so that's a correlation between the bed and the polygon, or there could be more polygons for each bed. Okay, great.
And you could also use bed mapping, if I'm right, for animal enclosures, if you're a zoo, if you wanted to map those out.
Yeah, they could be, correct. You could divide in your areas in any way or shape you want. So absolutely, yeah. And then we're leading up to our most recent addition, Simplified Accessioning, that we shipped less than a week ago, I think, where the idea here is, and this is something when we started Hortis quite a few years back, we had this thought that would be nice to be able to complete a full accessioning just on your smartphone, even being out in the garden. That would be amazing. And so what we've done here, if I go to, well, I'm just going to show you, I think, so by just recording a new accession. So now you will see that you get this new form here, which is much simpler. There's a panic button up here for those who you have are already on Hortis, that you can actually go back to the old style if you feel like this is. We just thought that was be like a sort of a soft transition for everybody. And I'm just going to show you one example how easy it is now to record an accession. So I'm just going to record a flowering abelia here, and I'm going to say it was today. I'm just going to say it's a garden provenance. The supplier is Abelia Nursery, very handy for us. And I could also add some other things. I can add identification. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to add a plant material. I'm just going to put it in the historic garden. And it's going to be, actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to put it in the nursery. And then I'm going to add the quantity here to 1, even though what we, with the way we do in Hortis is that we don't assign 1, we assume it's 1, but I'm just going to do that for the sake of this demo. So add this material, and we got 3 of these. So I'm going to just duplicate them. So we now got 3, and I can now create the accession, and I'm done. So you could see how easy you could do that. And what we've done through the analysis of what people record is that there's a tremendous amount of records that typically are of that level of detail. So sometimes when you have wild collected material or there's a question about its identification and others, then the record becomes more, what should I say, richer and more granular. But this will cover like a huge percentage of all your flows, and you could do that then really streamlined. And the same would work on the smartphone or on a tablet, really, really slick and quick. And you may have noticed now that we also give you a notification when these bigger features are released, so you can click here and learn more about the new feature. So I advise you to have a look at that when you get the chance. Then I'm going to jump in and do a bit more of a sophisticated one, where we first of all, the one thing that people have feedback as well is that when you add new taxa, so I'm going to do an Acer. So it's an Acer that starts with F. I can't remember the name. So it's an Acer. Let me see if there is any Franchetti. Let's say we want. No, we'll do this hybrid here, just because I see that's the accepted name. I'm just picking a name now, but so you see here now, when you start making now we get a full list of all the 1.4 million names provided by Plants World Online. And what's nice now is that you actually get all the taxonomic details in the accession flow. So you can actually see a bit more about it, and you can even go and visit the source. No, here's the, sorry, you can do that by clicking here, and then you can have a look at the details about the taxon itself, or the species, the scientific name. So that's really sort of makes the flow even more exciting. You can also get the taxonomic tree here as well, with the order, etc. It's going to create that taxon, and then if it was wild collected, you can see here now you can actually dive in and do all the wild collection information. I'm not going to do that for the sake of brevity here, but supplier and change the accession number. For those of you who have fed back to us about being able to have more flexibility with accession numbering, this is very imminent now that you can actually do more with that. So keep an eye out for the release notes when that will be released. We hope to ship that this week. So yeah. Now for the plant material, I'm going to go a bit further than I did last time, where we're going to say we're going to put it in the historic garden, but I'm actually going to map the position straight away. So I can actually bring up the map. I'm going to switch to my other map, and then I know exactly where it is. I'm going to confirm that. And then you can see here now I can still do other things like observation and other things. And then even add a photo if I like. So I'm not going to bother with that now. But you can get the point. So the point is that you can actually complete a full accession in one flow, and also do it reasonably quickly, but also a lot of help from Hortis to make it correct as well. So I'm going to create this one, and then here we got another one. And if I view this one, you will see then that here's the plant. I'm going to look at the plant. So you see here now, you can see where it's mapped and the coordinates and everything. So that's the new accession flow. I really love to hear people's feedback on that. And we think we might sort of use that pattern in a few other places because of the sort of ease of being able to finish off a full record in one sort of flow. Okay. If we go to our release notes, for those of you, you will see that we released, well, that was a bit early on, quite a lot of other micro updates or improvements to other things. So have a look out there if you wonder about what kind of other features we have released over the last month or further back, if you like. Okay, so I think we're sort of 4 minutes from finalized or to deadline of the webinar, but we're happy to take some questions if there are any.
Bart, could you just share the link of the location drawing webinar? Or
Yes.
just tell me where to find that?
Yeah. The simplest thing to do is to actually, if you go to our website, I'll share that with you. You will, when you go to our website, you can actually click on, sorry, this is a bit of a lot far down on this particular one here, but if you click on the YouTube link here, you'll get to our YouTube channel, and there you'll see it. Okay, so it's either there or it should be a blog post as well, but it definitely is on the YouTube channel.
Great,
So
thank you.
yeah. With some feedback on people wanted to more sort of advanced drawing capabilities, and we're going to look into that, obviously. But the ability to export and import is something we're going to add, so that you can actually use if you use ArcGIS, for example, to create this layer, you can import the layers into Hortis that way. Hello.
Hi, Harvard. This is Tom in California.
Hey.
Thanks very much for doing this. It's a great summary for the end of the year. Can you give me an example of first of all, the feedback on the new accessioning program, starting with taxa into acquisition and then plant material? It's so much easier. The ability to create multiple plants just by hitting on those two squares when you have a series of plants, it's really much easier, probably twice as fast. The only thing I would recommend there is somehow if you start with a new taxa, to be able to then go from taxa to accession to material, which it can't seem to do. At least I haven't figured that one out.
Okay. Let me. So you said if we have a new.
If you start with a new taxa.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna. Yeah.
Let's go with Abelia serrata, for example.
Well, that wouldn't necessarily be a new. Yeah. So just do Abelia.
Okay. Start with a new one. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm just gonna go see what happens here with F. Oh, assume this one. I'll do this Floribunda here and see. And then create that one. Yeah.
Okay, and then can I go to an acquisition from there?
No, no, exactly. You need to now complete the. Because you wouldn't. I can finish the accession. Yeah. So, there's no.
But you're creating. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have any other accessions of that. But yeah.
Yeah. So okay, that's fine. That's a way around it. That's perfect. My second question is, can you give me an example of a batch operation, please?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, when would you use that?
I think one of the most common scenarios I would say would be if you were to print labels, and you might gradually assign tags to plants that you want to print labels of. So so let's say, for the sake of it, I've decided I want to print labels of these 4. So I'm going to just do so I'm now just going to do add tags to these. So I say,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needs label here, need label. So there's a lot of noise in this particular database, but need label. So now
Yeah.
they're all tagged with need label.
Okay.
And then later on, I might then
Add label.
add to others, and then eventually I can get rid of the need label again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's one example. I think it makes a lot of sense in that kind of maintenance thing, but others might also use tag to say these are all our part of our historic collection, or
Yeah.
and then you say, okay, that goes for all our Quercus. So you're going to search for those and then give that, update all of them, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, just thank you very much. The software just keeps getting better and better, and easier to use, and certainly more powerful. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Tom. That's great to hear, and thank you for your support.
Mhm.
Okay, conscious of time as well. We can hang around a bit longer, but really great to see you all, and we'll take the opportunity also to wish you all the best for the holidays, and happy happy Thanksgiving for our North American friends, and yeah, keep.
Right.
We get a lot of, I mean, don't be shy when it comes to giving feedback and ask questions. The easiest way, just to remind people also, if you send it to support@hortis.com, they'll all get handled. Now, especially with the holiday season coming up, there might be different people involved. So that might be the best top tip to make sure you get a high response rate or fast response rate. So, but
Thanks
anyway,
again.
thanks again, everybody. And
Bye.
thank you.